The Integrity Deficit. A Systematic Review of Statutory Licensing in the Post-Turing Digital Economy. Author: Neil Chinnock, Chief Business Administrator, iTech. Adapted from the DBA Systematic Literature Review by Neil Chinnock. Executive Summary. The digital sector is experiencing a swift transformation. Where once search engine optimization, SEO, operated using fairly deterministic rules, today's artificial intelligence, generative engine optimization, AI/GEO, introduces a volatile probabilistic element. Trust, once grounded in human-written content and transparent algorithms, is now threatened by the rise of AI-generated answers and the increasing indistinguishability between authentic and synthetic information. Pasquale, 2015. This systematic review draws on 30 high-integrity sources to rigorously examine whether statutory licensing, akin to regulatory models in physical security, can mitigate reputational risk and restore faith in digital marketing practice. The study's findings are stark. A governance vacuum has emerged, where voluntary standards and self-regulation fail to contain both external threats, such as coordinated attacks and content sabotage, and internal hazards, like algorithmic hallucinations. Through the Algorithmic Governance Iceberg framework, the literature suggests the industry's reliance on the resource-based view, RBV, is outdated. A legitimacy-based view, LBV, is needed, one that centers on institutional accountability, mandatory licensing, and a new model of digital fiduciaries. The UK's Security Industry Authority, SIA, is proposed as a template for an integrated integrity framework, IIF, offering a credible route to professionalize the sector and close the professionalization paradox. 1. Introduction. The post-Turing turning point. The digital marketing landscape has reached what many describe as the post-Turing horizon, referencing a period in which AI-generated content becomes indistinguishable from human output. This transition is not just technical, it's existential. For decades, controlling one's digital reputation meant mastering SEO, a process based on deterministic, predictable outcomes. Success was measured by getting a specific human-written page to rank for a targeted keyword, and the rules of the game, while complex, were at least transparent. The emergence of generative engine optimization, GEO, however, has changed the game entirely. AI agents are no longer simply indexing or retrieving information. They are acting as fiduciaries of truth, synthesizing data and generating answers that users cannot always trace back to a source. This shift introduces new forms of risk, particularly because of how generative AI can confidently assert plausible, but factually incorrect information. Zhang and Liu, 2024. As a result, organizations face a two-pronged challenge. External threats like Google bowling, maliciously creating negative SEO to harm competitors. Link injection, introducing harmful links into a site. And internal site search abuse, manipulating internal algorithms to surface misleading content. Internal hazards, most notably AI hallucinations, where generative models output falsehoods with unwarranted confidence. Together, these forces create an integrity deficit, where the credibility of digital platforms is no longer tethered to actual organizational integrity. The industry is operating within a black box society, as described by Pasquale, 2015, where the logic of algorithmic outputs is opaque, and the need for strategic competence extends far beyond traditional technical skill sets. This review is grounded in the premise that the current lack of regulatory accountability, a true governance vacuum, has allowed these problems to spiral. The central research question is whether a compulsory licensing regime, similar to that used in the private security sector, is now essential to restoring digital trust. 2. Methodology, rigor, purpose, and relevance. The approach is rooted in qualitative systematic review, with an emphasis on epistemic integrity, the reliability and truthfulness of knowledge over mere data volume. 2.1. The Spider Framework and Teleological Curation. The research is structured using the Spider Framework: sample, phenomenon of interest, design, evaluation, research type. This framework ensures that the review is not just a mechanical aggregation of sources, it is driven by teleological curation. That is, sources are chosen for their explanatory power regarding the hybrid threat landscape, the intersection of technical, legal, and organizational risks that define the current era. To counteract regulatory lag, where technological innovation outpaces academic publication, the review integrates a technical gray stream. This brings in government white papers, industry documents, and regulatory guidance, for example, from the Competition and Markets Authority and Information Commissioner's Office, to supplement and sometimes contest academic findings. Gray literature is especially important for providing statutory models, like the SIA, that academia has yet to fully analyze. 2.2. The chronological filter and inclusion criteria. To ensure relevance, the literature is filtered chronologically. Only SEO sources from 2020 onwards and AI-related sources from 2023 onwards are included. This deliberate exclusion of pre-generative models is vital, as earlier work simply does not account for the existential algorithmic risks posed by modern large language models, LLMs. Geographically, the review prioritizes transnational sources to address the allocation gap, the mismatch between local legal frameworks and the global reach of digital platforms. The sample is intentionally kept to 30 high-integrity sources, favoring pattern recognition and critical synthesis over quantitative coverage. 2.3 Reflexivity and insider bias. The researcher acknowledges their position as an insider in the sector, which brings the risk of bias, especially in defining black hat tactics. To mitigate this, the review uses methodological triangulation, cross-referencing technical literature, e.g., Vajrobol et al., 2024, with legal frameworks, e.g., Ganguly, 2024b, to ensure definitions are robust and evidence-based. 2.4. The 5-element analytic lens. A 5-element screening protocol is used to examine threats through 5 dimensions: technological, disentangling deterministic search from probabilistic answer engines; organizational, exposing governance vacuums and managerial apathy; environmental, mapping the gap between domestic jurisdiction and global platforms; economic, assessing the cost-quality trade-off of professionalization; human resources, shifting from technical recall to applied ethics, as per Bloom's taxonomy. This lens allows for a multi-dimensional critique, highlighting not just what is happening, but why it matters. 3. Comprehensive literature analysis, the silo effect. The review's analysis of 30 high-integrity sources exposes a pronounced silo effect. This effect occurs where technical capability, legal responsibility, regulatory oversight, and tactical know-how are treated as separate silos, with little cross-communication. 3.1. Technical silo. Weaponization of volatility. Technical literature shows that algorithmic volatility is not an incidental glitch, but a structural flaw in the digital marketplace. Agarwal et al. In 2024. For instance, Zhang and Liu, 2024, demonstrate that bad actors exploit new AI tools to flood markets with spam, taking advantage of negligible marginal costs. This phenomenon is described as Gresham's law of content. Low quality, unverified content pushes out higher quality, verified information, simply because the cost of verification is too high for honest players. 3.2. Legal silo, liability without enforcement. Legal scholars such as Ganguly, 2024b, note that current frameworks for unfair competition demand proof of consumer harm. Yet, when misinformation is free and invisible, such harm is nearly impossible to prove. While these authors diagnose the legal problem, they rarely offer enforceable solutions, leaving a gap between critique and remedy. 3.3 Regulatory silo. The paper tiger of soft law governance structures like the CIM Constitution and BCAP Code are scrutinized as soft law, Codes that lack real punitive power. Sun et al., 2024, and Costara, 2021, argue that without statutory authority, voluntary frameworks are easily subverted. The Phoenix Company problem, where bad actors dissolve and reform under new names, illustrates the inadequacy of self-regulation in the face of automation and scale. 3.4 Tactical Silo. Codebook findings. Thematic analysis of the sector's codebook reveals overlooked nuances. The social media efficacy paradox shows that social presence often fails to meaningfully impact brand perception. Occupational monoculture highlights a persistent subculture that actively resists regulation, priding itself on independence and seeing top-down standards as antithetical to their hacker ethos. 4. Theoretical framework. The Algorithmic Governance Iceberg. The Algorithmic Governance Iceberg model provides a visual metaphor for understanding the disconnect between surface-level symptoms and deep structural causes. 4.1 Above the waterline. Visible symptoms. The visible context layer includes corporate social responsibility rhetoric and voluntary compliance, what Cowley et al., 2021, call badges of employability, which often lack substance. 4.2 Below the waterline. Structural drivers. Beneath, the review identifies a governance vacuum and a set of interacting risks. Traditional SEO and new GEO approaches now exist in a concurrent and sometimes conflicting relationship, creating a hybrid threat landscape. Regulatory lag means that legal frameworks simply can't keep up with the pace of technological change, and corporate rhetoric is often at odds with the reality of exploitative practices. 4.3 Theoretical anchors. Isomorphism and risk compensation. The model is anchored in two theories. Institutional isomorphism. DiMaggio and Powell, 1983. Only coercive state-backed regulation can enforce industry-wide standards. The Peltzman effect. As AI tools make work easier, practitioners may take more risks, trusting automated outputs more than they should. This highlights the need for human-in-the-loop protocols. 4.4 The shift to Legitimacy-Based View, LBV. The review proposes a shift from the resource-based view, RBV, where technical assets are the source of competitive advantage, to the legitimacy-based view, LBV, where institutional moral legitimacy and human accountability are the only sustainable differentiators in an era of zero marginal cost misinformation. 5. Critical gap analysis, PICO framework. Applying the PICO, population, intervention, comparison, outcome framework reveals several critical gaps. 5.1 Population gap. The allocation gap and SMEs. Small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, are at a disadvantage. They lack the resources to defend themselves against reputational sabotage. Ilonen, 2025. Most research is focused on adoption barriers, not survival strategies. Volkmar et al., 2022. 5.2 Intervention gap. The vacuum of statutory licensure. There is a lack of empirical literature on statutory licensing for digital reputation management. While the SIA model exists in physical security, very few studies have examined how such a system might work for digital practitioners. 5.3 Comparison gap. Certification versus licensure. Voluntary certificates verify knowledge, but not identity or intent. Only statutory vetting, such as the SIA's checks for criminal history, prevents the Phoenix Company evasion problem. 5.4 Outcome gap. Recall versus applied ethics. Current training models emphasize technical recall rather than ethical judgment. There is a pedagogical gap in developing digital fiduciaries who can exercise higher-order ethical reasoning, Bloom's taxonomy. 6. The proposed solution, the Integrated Integrity Framework, IIF. The IIF is designed to bridge the gap between technical reality and legal rigor. 6.1 Legislative transposition and simulation. The framework calls for adapting the Private Security Industry Act 2001 to digital reputation management. Digital identity. License. Mandatory for digital reputation managers, requiring a criminal background check and verified identity. Fit and proper test simulation. Applying SIA standards to digital agencies would structurally bar Phoenix actors from re-entering the industry. 6.2. Pedagogical restructuring. Current training must move beyond rote learning to cultivate ethical judgment. Algorithmic fiduciary training, focused on conflict management and ethical decision-making, modeled on SIA's Door Supervisor curriculum. Bloom's taxonomy. Elevate training from simple recall to complex evaluation and creation. 6.3. Cryptographic chain of custody. A technical solution is proposed. A closed system where every verified digital act is cryptographically linked to a licensed human, creating an immutable audit trail. Abaru et al., 2025. This ensures accountability and supports statutory enforcement. 6.4. Regulatory comparison. UK versus global models. The review identifies the UK's reliance on soft law as insufficient for tackling global risks. Zambrano et al., 2025. The IIF model aims to bridge domestic jurisdiction and global threats, providing a model for transnational regulation. 7. Recommendations for future research. 7.1. Simulations of fit and proper standards. Future studies should build simulations using the SIA model to estimate how many Phoenix actors would be caught. Gov UK, 2025b. 7.2. The trust tax. Economic quantification. There is a need to quantify the economic impact, the trust tax that unfair competition and internal site search abuse impose on SMEs. Ganguly, 2024b, Zhang and Liu, 2024. 7.3. Curriculum design for digital fiduciaries. Research should develop and test training programs to see if ethics-based curriculum reduces black hat tactics under pressure. Burke et al., 2016. 8. Conclusion. Statutory intervention as a necessity. The review makes it clear. The digital marketing industry is at a crisis point. Soft law mechanisms have become paper tigers, no longer fit for a world of zero marginal cost misinformation and rampant algorithmic volatility. The resource-based view is obsolete. Only statutory intervention and a shift to a legitimacy-based view will ensure that high-integrity, accountable digital practice survives. The Integrated Integrity Framework, drawing on the SIA model, cryptographic verification, and robust ethical training, is not just desirable but essential. Without it, digital trust and the digital economy itself will remain on shaky ground. References: Abaru, M., Abgur, N., and Chiba, Z., 2025. Cryptographic Chain of Custody for Digital Content Verification. Journal of Information Security, 51-2, pp. 1121-26. Agarwal, R., Jain, S., and Kumar, A., 2024. Algorithmic Volatility and Digital Market Failures. Evidence from Generative AI, International Journal of Digital Economics, 12-1, pp. 35-56. Burke, L.A., Shuck, B., and Obey, C., 2016. Ethics Training and Workplace Behavior, a Comprehensive Review. Journal of Business Ethics, 137-4, pp. and 743-760. Cowley, S., Humphrey Jr., C., and Munoz, C., 2021. Institutional Trust Mechanisms in Digital Reputation Management. Journal of Business and Technology, 45-3, pp. 221-232. DiMaggio, P.J., and Powell, W.W., 1983. The Iron Cage. Revisited. Institutional Isomorphism and Collective Rationality in Organizational Fields. American Sociological Review, 48-2, pp. 147-160. Ganguly, S., 2024b. Legal Liability and Unfair Competition in Digital Markets. Law and AMP. Technology Review, 38-2, pp. 101-119. Gov.uk, 2025b. Fit and proper test for SIA licensing. Guidance for employers and applicants. Online. Available at https://www.gov.uk. Fit and proper SIA license. Accessed 14 February 2026. Ilonen, K. 2025. Allocation gaps and SME vulnerability in digital reputation. Small Business and AMP, Enterprise Journal, 31, pp. 88, 102. Kostara, E. 2021. The Phoenix Company Problem. Regulatory Failures in Voluntary Schemes, Regulation and AMP. Compliance Quarterly, 15-4. pp. 312-329. Kanutila, T. 2024. AI Adoption in Digital Marketing. Benefits and Pitfalls. Digital Strategy Review, 8-1. pp. 27-45. Pasquale, F. 2015. The Black Box Society. The Secret Algorithms That Control Money and Information. Cambridge, M.A. Harvard University Press. Sun, M. Lee, P. and Patel, S. 2024. Internal Drive versus External Governance in Digital Organizations. Business Ethics and Technology, 19-2, pp. 292-109. Vajrabol, P. Chen, Z. and D'Souza, M. 2024. Defining Malicious Tactics in AI-Driven Marketing. AI and AMP. Society, 39-3, pp. 278-295. Volkmar, G. Smith, J. and O'Neill, H. 2022. Drivers of AI Adoption in SMEs. Journal of Enterprise Transformation, 13-2, pp. 207-225. Zambrano, D. Torres, F. and Cruz, S. 2025. Cross-Border Regulatory Challenges in the Andean Community. Global Policy Journal, 17-1, pp. 166-184. Zhang, Y. and Liu, H. 2024. Internal Site Search Abuse and the Economics of Spam in AI Content Generation. Journal of Digital Security, 22-4, pp. 301-319. Thanks for watching.